are recorded by electronic means and that the meetings will follow an agenda. Anyone who wishes to have a matter placed on the agenda needed to submit the topic to the mayor in writing by the last Wednesday of the month by the close of the business day, which is 3 p.m. Those items will be reviewed for approval. There you go, Kim. All right. So first thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes from January 18th, 2022 work session meeting and the February 8th, 2022 special work session meeting. Has everyone had a chance to go over those? Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have it 5-0. All right, second on the agenda is the audio-visual equipment for town hall meeting room, the CMC estimate, and the update from Richard Turner with CMC, who is here. Hi, Richard. Good evening.
Why don't we set you up here?
How's that? Very good. Well, good evening. It's pretty windy out there.
Yep.
Gonna have some garbage cans floating around. I had to dodge a couple on the way in. But thanks. Good to see you all again this evening. To bring you a little bit of an update. I know I've been working with Councilman Cornick and Hull on trying to figure out the right kind of configuration for the equipment that would give you the best for the price consideration and give you the flexibility to have the meetings integrated with Zoom as well as with the broadcast and streams with CMC. And so what we've passed around as a result of some of that work, we have a list of equipment. I know it's pretty technical because we've got everything down to the detail of a specific manufacturer or piece of equipment. On the left-hand side of the gray bar there, you'll actually see that that is MSRP. So as best as we could determine, this is the manufacturer's suggested retail price of equipment. On the right-hand side is one quote that's been received from a manufacturer. So it's pretty much a good faith estimate of the kind of discount that you could expect if you were to go to a vendor directly rather than seeking an integrator, one person who would buy all the equipment, install it all, connect it all. In this case, part of the proposal is that the CMC would actually come in and do the equipment connection and configuration at no cost to the town. Right. So you've got the quoted price, the quantity of the equipment, and the blue lines indicate that equipment that through our discussions in trying to reduce the cost of the town, that CMC would actually bear. So CMC has some of this equipment in stock, but other pieces of equipment CMC would actually purchase as part of the process, okay? To ensure that we had fully compatible equipment. In addition, because of the concerns about cabling and wiring, the kinds of wires that would need to be installed, the system we looked at would have actually, would be all digital, meaning that we would use a single style of cable in the building, in the walls, to connect it, which actually lowers some of the installation costs because now it's more standard computer cable rather than specialized audio and video cables. So that does lower some of the cost. There's a little bit of a trade-off that some of the electronics that is digital now is a little bit slightly higher, but we think overall that gives you the greatest flexibility and it future-proofs because for the most part, most of the analog equipment is being phased out and going obsolete. As one example, an audio mixer that we purchased and specified for Sykesville and Hampstead is no longer available on the market. I can't find one anywhere that we could even purchase if we wanted to. And so to address that and make sure that there's compatibility, we are making a recommendation that we support the digital transformation is upon us. So again, the blue lines are equipment that CMC believes you're not able to find through some other kinds of grant of any kind, then CMC would purchase and supply. And so you can see that there's a subtotal in the blue box on the right-hand side. If you were to further go down under the extended line, you would see an estimated grand total and then a grand total minus the CMC funded. So that would be the rough estimate of the cost to the town. Now, I do say a rough estimate because there are some prices in here that we could not get quoted prices yet. Some of that is due to equipment manufacturers that are either changing their equipment and haven't come out with a comparable piece yet, or have been delayed for some reason because of supply chain. We've been told, for example, that data switches, the kinds of thing, the device that connects all of your computers together to a single unit, is 6 months backlogged, the one that we had specified. So obviously, we'd have to find, once we get the timeline, we'll get a better idea of what that price is. And usually with electronics, things go a little bit cheaper as you go, but these days with supply chain, you just don't know. That's the tough side, and with inflation, where it'll end up. So the double asterisk items have not been quoted down here. The last item, number 20, which is audio-video network cabling, is a little bit of a contingency fund. You run it, sometimes you do a project, you're going to run into something that's missing, a bracket, connector, or something of some kind. That's probably on the high side, but is a little bit built in there just for some safety and contingency from a budgeting standpoint. Below an installation and integration, the installation labor we had initially estimated at 20% of the original equipment cost. Of course, when we quoted it, it reduced the equipment price, so it reduced the original number for the estimate of installation. Today, we received an actual quote. Again, it's just one quote. It's not the one you necessarily have to go with, but that one actually came out a little bit higher, you can see, than expected. So that's $5,799. That includes both the AV wiring, the installation bracketing of the cameras on the walls, and the additional data network cables to hook each of the computers up at your computer dais into the system. So now, instead of relying upon Wi-Fi, you would also be able to have wired connections for your computers and have a more stable environment for anything that you would do on your laptops at your dais.
Richard, just one question, if I might. That increase in price of over what we'd initially thought, from roughly 5,000 to almost 6.
Yep.
Is that the result of the connections at the dais, or did he see something here when he came in that kind of?
I can't answer that question for you.
Okay.
I got this via email after he came this afternoon.
Okay.
I was going to meet him here this morning. Unfortunately, he had a family emergency. So
Sure.
I wasn't able to make it this morning.
Saying no sound, everyone's on mute.
Yeah, I let the CMC staff know.
Thank you.
Okay. Is it that computer there that's muted? Can you see if that one's on, or?
It is muted.
If it's muted, I think that needs to be unmuted
It should be
for
muted, right?
folks in Zoom land to be able to hear us.
Where's this go? Yeah, okay.
Let me see.
That'll make a change.
Thank you.
So we provided, the second page is the cabling locations that were estimated, and the number included in that. The number includes a little extra capacity for future, so that you wouldn't have to do any additional wiring, so you want to add something in the future. One per location. They are roughly color-coded. As you can see, most of them are, again, the Cat6 cabling, which is network or data cabling. Again, the fact that we're changing the audio to digital allows us to tidy up some of the cables that are out here, and again, have microphones connected directly to these data connection ports. Again, these are open to a degree of negotiation. They're just first quotes. They're just one quote. You might want to go, if you want to do another quote, at least, I don't know that they would get any better. It all really depends upon your timeline, right? Because obviously, if you're ready to purchase today, you could probably reasonably be assured that a quotation is good for 30 days, but if it's longer than that, the question is what will that particular vendor give you as a quoted price?
So this is the exact same stuff that we already have in place now?
Yes, it is nearly identical. Some of the microphones, for example, are up, there's a newer model.
It's all gonna be hardwired, correct?
That's correct. These would all be hardwired, and this is the gooseneck microphones. Now, you'll notice right now, we're operating with 7 microphones. This would actually increase it to 8, and it would add a wireless microphone for a podium for the audience so that they wouldn't have to do something like this. And
Also the cameras though, they won't be on the
wall.
tripods, they'll be on the wall.
they'll be mounted on the wall, that's correct. Yeah.
Richard, over here.
Yeah.
I know we had talked last time about a television on that wall as well, and I know we either scrapped it but is it possible that, or should we put a connection in the wall at the time of installation, in the event the town decides to purchase a TV down the road, that we could just integrate into it?
I would tell you, when you, I emailed the quote to the council members, but I did not include the installation quote. You'll see the good portion of that is labor. It is adding another wire is pretty straightforward. So for example, adding a wire location on a wall, assuming that they can get into it easily, once they're up there, ceiling's opened, ladders are up, it's not much more to add another connecting point.
Well, the one thing though is the cameras. Will they be on? Will they be up near the other ones, or are they going to be down a little bit lower?
We've given you an approximation. You can see on the drawing, there's a little figure, a gray figure there, that is the approximate location on the wall for those cameras.
I'm just curious because if it was up on top where that basically meets the ceiling, that connection there, obviously for a TV it's going to have to be lower. That might be a little bit more than just running another connection to the top bar there.
That's correct. So there are 2 ways to do that. One is that while they're pulling those cable, they can pull another one. They can basically do a poke through, put a blank plate up there, and just leave the cable behind it. That way the cable is there. That major labor of pulling and opening up the ceiling and getting it in could be sitting it there, leaving it there so that it's there. Your cable is going to run basically, under probably $1, definitely under $1 a foot for a Cat 6 cable. But what you're lacking over here is electrical. So over here, behind this monitor, for example, they installed an electrical outlet. These folks who do low voltage wiring, not regular electrical wiring. So if you put one up there, you could run a cord from the outlet up, or bring an electrician in at the future time that you'd want one installed there. Again, it's just a choice.
Thank you.
Richard, if you wouldn't mind, please, could you speak to the benefit of working with CMC in terms of what you'll be providing? I don't want to say gratis, but, the trade-off in working with CMC, just for the public record and for our benefit.
Sure thing.
Kind of reiterate.
Obviously, with the caveat that I'm selling you on the CMC.
Right.
But that is our role. That's our mission as a nonprofit, to be here to serve the community. And that the reason why we have highlighted these specific items that CMC would bear is 2 reasons. One is that obviously our funding is for equipment for production purposes, but specifically this is equipment that the town would use only for the purposes of broadcasting through CMC for the most part. You could also stream with this equipment, so I want to be clear that you could have a dual purpose for the equipment. But you could do it probably at a slightly cheaper rate. I want to be absolutely honest about that. The reason for example, the cameras, you're seeing a camera here that's, MSRP $3,550 for a single camera. Can you find a camera that's cheaper that would stream? Yes, you could. Would it be compatible with CMC? No, it wouldn't. That's the challenge, is that the specific signals that camera sends make sure that it's compatible with our ability to both stream and then broadcast. And that's the key component. So when we specify equipment, when we come in and wire it, we're wiring it at when we connect the wires and configure it, our staff already knows that equipment because it's identical to the equipment that's at the other locations. And so therefore, we have a good familiarity with it, and we will support it, and that does not cost you anything. So a typical vendor who's an integrator that would sell you equipment and then install it, they would give you a service contract, and you would pay an annual amount for a service contract or a per service visit. In the case of CMC, we're remotely controlling it, and we, again, we would come in and also have backup equipment so that we have a piece of equipment on the shelf. If something fails, we're here to respond within 4 hours. We're, in less than 4 hours usually. I mean, it's just getting a person in the right piece of equipment in their hands and getting them here, so that we can respond quickly and solve the problem with a spare piece of equipment that's compatible again. It's the compatibility of equipment. It's the support and services that we can offer, both in terms of the operation of that equipment, as well as the replacement, on-site replacement of that equipment. And of course, it helps us with the streaming and broadcasting efforts. I think I've covered the major advantages of that, and training as well. Again, that our staff is familiar with it, so that we can actually help solve the problems with it when it comes up. We expect that you're probably going to call us first. It's a logical thing to do, is to call the firm that doesn't charge you anything.
Now, the one quote that came in, do you know of any other vendors in the area that would possibly provide a second quote?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly for equipment, for cabling, there are possibly a couple others that are local. The other ones that I know are like Baltimore or Frederick, that do just cabling, for example.
But this quote, actually the contractor that's coming in and doing the cabling was just doing the cabling.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah, we're splitting it up, basically.
correct.
And all of the design work, all of that is already being supported, right? You're essentially not paying any general administrative overhead of a general contractor to provide that.
I mean, personally, I'm not opposed to getting a second quote just to see, how different it is.
On the installation?
On the installation,
Yeah.
yes. Then probably make a decision from there.
And of course, the town shouldn't hesitate to negotiate. I mean, this is a proposal from that vendor for the installation and getting it clarified is worthy.
Perfect. Well, Richard, anything else?
See if there are any other questions, and, I've done basically the equipment design based upon the discussions that we've had. And again, based upon those principles of doing a digital conversion, these style of microphones, and that capability.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Richard, because, this has been over 2 years in the making, really, and just from the few meetings that I've had with you, it's a lot more than just picking out a couple cameras and a couple microphones. It's a lot of work. From the early meetings, all the design and everything, it is just a ton. And I'm just kind of glad that we're almost close to actually making a decision here.
Well, we're here as a partner, and this is part of the community service, again, that we provide. So I'm proud that we can do this, and, proud of the work that the organization can do for you.
So just want to make sure I understand what's going to happen. So are you going to get another quote, or is that on us to do that?
Really on the town, right? Because we're not passing through that contract.
So
Right.
Councilman Hull, are you volunteering to do that? You
I
and
can
Councilman Cornick?
research a couple names and send some along.
Yeah, so we had, in our previous efforts to try to get this nailed down, we had a couple vendors that I reached out to that I'm not sure if they'll just want to do the wiring, but we'll see. I mean, I'm sure there are companies out there that will do the wiring.
And you could use that one diagram basically to
Right.
give them an indicator of what the requirements are.
Right. The other thing too is, I know the gentleman that did come by is at least familiar with the design, we might have to incorporate your efforts again, if
And
we
that's-
have enough
that's quite
person.
all right, we
But-
understand.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, we can tackle that by next work session, so.
I like the idea of, CMC being the coordinator since we're using them as the broadcast medium too.
Absolutely, yeah.
So.
Okay.
Richard, thank you on behalf of the town council. Thank you for being flexible for the meeting on Saturday, and,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It worked out well with the wrestling tournament that we were
yes, I should,
we were doing at the same time, so it worked out well. All
we'll
righty.
try to bring this home.
All right, good to see you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Moving on to number 3 on the agenda will be the town charter revision, review, and discussion.
Okay, I'll do a brief introduction. So Attorney Ostrander emailed a cover letter and revised charter to the mayor, council, and staff on February 1st for review prior to discussion at tonight's work session meeting. The letter and charter are in your folders under the meeting dated for this evening. Myself and Donna and Michelle have been working on, through several meetings, working on updating the charter portion of the code, and that's where we are at this point, and that's what that one document that's in there is where we are, a draft of that updated charter portion.
If you have had difficulty sleeping and have pulled this out, you doubtless have seen, there's not a lot of real substantive change in this charter, but a lot of it is quite old, and our clerk treasurer has pointed out several instances that the clerk treasurer used to do things, in 1962, that is a different role now. So what we did is we went through the whole thing and made whatever changes we all felt were appropriate. Some things are small, like the very first change, we took out inhabitants. It's just a strange word to have in a charter, and put in residents instead because that felt more normal. A lot of these changes are small. Some of them are stylistic. I think 1/2 should be written out in words and not 1/2. Some of that is just me. But there are a lot of things that we did update. Once before we tried to get all the councilmen out, but we missed a couple. So with luck now, we're all going to be just council members and not councilmen. The oddest thing about it, and I think I've specified this in my cover letter, is when we were looking through this, there are 2 sections in the existing code printed up and that we've been having for years and years that are identical. And one that was in the old code that somehow didn't get put in the new code at all. They're about referendum, which goes to show what a nice, well-behaved, and placid place New Windsor has been, because obviously we didn't need to look up our law on referendum only to find out that it wasn't there. So the 1/2 page of underlined is not really anything new. It's just never got codified properly for whatever reason, and that was several administrations ago that was done. If anyone has an overwhelming urge to do so, we could go through all of it, but I think if you've read it, you probably don't really need to do that. But if anybody has any particular questions as to why we propose some of these things, yes, sir.
So I do have a question, and I did read the major portions of the document. I noticed in Article 3, under the council, specifically C3-5,
All right.
there's a section called removal of council members. Okay. However, in Article 4, under the mayor, there is no section on removal. And speckled throughout the document, it does mention ways of removing other staff and things like that. So for consistency purposes, should there be a section on the removal of the mayor?
That is your call. I went back and looked, I have some older charters. I was unable to find any prior reference to removing a mayor. We talked about it a little bit.
We talked about it when we had to, I believe we changed things when we had a problem when someone wasn't
Yeah,
coming
we
to a
had an
meeting.
issue several years ago.
Yeah.
Questions that came up about attendance issues, and that's what prompted some of these changes. But we discussed it. I'm sure you remember. It's probably in one of those notes in that big old book. But no action was taken then. If there is sentiment to include something like that, we could very easily do so. But that's not a recommendation for or against. It's just an observation that you're right. There's no mechanism in here now or proposed, but we didn't really propose a lot of new stuff. That's y'all's call. We could do it if there's sentiment to do it.
So
easily.
in my opinion, for consistency purposes, I think we cover everyone in the town in that except the removal of the mayor. So for consistency purposes, I believe that we should tackle that issue in the code as well, in the chart.
Is everyone agreeing with that?
And my next question, and you don't have to have an answer for this right now, but if there is sentiment to do so, we could easily take the same basic format that's there for removing council members, conviction of a crime during office, excessive absences,
Where is that?
whatever.
I can't find it.
It's section C3-5, and I apologize, I'm just looking at this now, and I see that the pages aren't numbered.
That's it.
It's page 3.
I'll find it. See if it's 3.
It's right up there.
C3-5.
This section used to be called Judge of Elections and Qualifications of Members. But you really don't judge the election or the qualifications of your members. That is the Board of Supervisors of Elections does that. So that's why we changed the name. And really, all the text was about was taking people out. So that's why we called it Taking People Out.
Okay. And while Kim is looking at that, also in C8-4, I'll wait till you find that, Michelle.
Okay, I was going to say, I did find, I'm embarrassed to admit, but I did find 2 typos when I looked at it again
So it
today.
is just a typo.
Oh, okay. Is that the one that's got a letter in the middle of it or a number or
It has a
something?
number in the middle of it, yes.
Yeah, I've already got that.
Okay, very good. So thank you for tackling that.
I got that,
There was
and
a
actually,
lot
there's
of-
there's a word missing at the very, very end. There's an, regulations, it just says, in accordance with county. We always agree with county, so regulations will go in there. But no, that's a good call, Councilman, and what I can very easily do is take, if there is sentiment to do so, I'll just, put it in. The same essential language and structure for all the elected officials will match. It won't be in this section, it'll be in the section about the mayor.
Yeah, we should be consistent.
So,
So I just had a question though about the referendum section. So in there, it says, if before the expiration of 20 days after an ordinance is passed, does that mean that a referendum is only eligible for the 20 days after?
yeah, after it's passed, you have that 20-day period for the groundswell to come and try and get the votes and what's required. After that, if there's a desire to change, you would be looking at amending through the ordinary,
Sure.
amending the code process.
Sure.
Which frankly is probably easier to do than referendum, but that's what it would be.
Okay.
Okay?
Moving forward.
All right, just so everybody knows, I'll make this change, and I probably will just shoot around that one section. The reason that you have all of it, even those portions that aren't being changed, is the contemplation is, once we finish the code review, to have the entire book recodified. So I figured it makes as much sense for everybody to have the whole document as opposed to trying to read those horrible things that have 4 lines of a statute, and you have to go get your book and look it up. So you have everything that there is, and that's why, and I will make that one change and shoot it back around. So the next step, it used to be, until like last year, actually, that resolutions did not need a public hearing, but now charter resolutions do. So we will have to set that up. It has to be advertised, and we'll have a public hearing on it. To the extent anybody really there's nothing controversial in these changes, I don't think. So with luck, that would be a fairly straightforward process.
Is that just for are we doing that in one lump?
Yes,
deal
I would
once
do
we
that
get
in
down
one
the
lump
whole
dip.
up-
Well, no, I would do the charter separately, because the
okay.
process is separate. The code is different, and
Okay.
certain of the code provisions have state statutory requirements for amending them, and others are just our own practice, and so we'll have to work through and walk through those individually.
Thank you.
Can I, this may or may not have anything to do with this, because I get confused about what's code and what's other things. But we had a conversation last year, I think, about people being able to sell off their garage, for instance, and then there's no place to park for that house. Did we ever deal with that?
I think that would be part of your zoning and/or development regulations, and I think for a lot of reasons, that conversation never went anywhere because the issue didn't go anywhere. But no, that's still an issue out there.
So that's something for the planning commission to talk
That
about?
would, well,
Or
yeah.
the zoning and planning?
I think it would go through I believe, and I remember exactly what you're talking about, but I'm less confident as to where I would suggest that any change would go. It would either go in zoning or the development review section. And both of those get reviewed, and recommendations are issued by the planning commission. Ultimately, any legislation is done by this body, but everything doesn't go before them, but those two things do.
So maybe Councilman Hoffman, you all could have that on your next agenda. I think we need to address that.
Do we want to do it on the next
Yeah.
agenda, or do we want to do it when
Yeah, but I
the
meant the
commission
planning. Yeah, when
is looking at, because we're going to
Or that's right,
review
you
both
all
of
are-
those.
Yeah, that would be great, just to make
sections.
sure.
Yeah. Right now, we got that plan,
Right,
that
comprehensive
pesky plan
That little plan, yeah.
that that we're in the middle of. Thank you for reminding me about that.
I just thought about it the other day, because somebody was complaining about the property in question, and it reminded me of it, so.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no more questions, we can move on to number 4 on the agenda, which is the COVID-19 policy/procedure for administrative leave and the review of procedure as requested at February council meeting.
Okay, so I brought this up last, and you all were looking for some verbiage to review. And I said I would put something together, some form of general procedure. It's very difficult to do and be able to pinpoint exactly and cover every single situation. You know, I said this last time, we're small. This is a dynamic situation that's constantly changing. Hopefully it's changing for the good. We won't have to worry too much about it. But, so what I did, and again, it's in your folder, is just put together, it's basically 5 bullet items of processes or situations that come about for staff, and whether they you know, potential exposure while you're here at work, follow a step procedure, and then also if you're, you know, away from work, and kind of how to go through that. With the availability somewhat, and we got a dozen of the call them at-home tests from the health department. We have some of those here, so, ideally, if the employee or staff person can get another test, that would be the best, but I would say that we would be okay with using at least an at-home test for the start of it, for the first process part of it. And kind of go from there, but you could sit there and rewrite this thing 10 times and come up with 10 different versions of it, but, what we were kind of interested in is that, if we develop a procedure and that you all are agree to, and the staff follow that procedure and follow certain requirements or whatever else we add to it, that there would be eligibility for a certain amount. I put in 10, it could be 5, whatever you all decide, of administrative leaves per fiscal year or calendar year. Again, it's still kind of open and fluid, but I wanted to get something in front of you to at least work from that if we need to develop anything further. So, kind of where we are.
So, I guess we're open for dialogue on it. So Gary, appreciate you putting this together. I think you covered the situations that you would come across, that the process would take over, what employees would do under certain circumstances. I think the crux of the issue last time was the administrative leave. And I think one of my concerns last time was it was not bound, how many times could they get this and things like that. And you did that this time, 10 days of administrative leave. Per fiscal year, calendar year, I don't know what's the most beneficial to the employees, the staff and the employees of the town. Their leave is based upon, do they get that at the calendar year, or does it kick off at the fiscal year?
Or is it anniversary?
It's their anniversary.
It's their anniversary.
Hire.
So, okay, so it's none of the above. So I don't know what's the most beneficial. I'm trying to be the most beneficial to the employees that may need that. So that's something we need to iron out of when it would start if we get on that road. And I certainly don't have heartburn with 10 days of administrative leave during one time, up to 10 days during that period of time. If they were to continuously contract COVID-like diseases, they would certainly have to start using their own personal days. But the town, I think, it would be in the town's best interest to have something like this on the books. So I'm personally okay with the 10 days. I was looking at other agencies and other government places and towns and things of what they do, and as Gary said, they're all over the place. But I think what they all are trying to be very flexible during this time. So that's kind of where I am on it.
So I will say that just current guidance at least, most quarantines are only when you are ill. If you're asymptomatic, you don't have to quarantine. Now, my concern is that if you are ill, at least at the federal level, you would use your own personal leave for that, your sick leave for that. My problem with giving administrative leave for when you're ill is where's the bound for that? If you had the flu, you would use your own leave. If you had a stomach bug, you would use your own leave. So that's I feel that you should have to use your own leave if you are ill. Now, current guidance doesn't have you quarantine if a family member's quarantined. So I don't know how that could qualify as another item to be eligible for the administrative leave. that's kind of where I'm at.
Anything else?
The state gives you 10 days, and I'd have to go back and look at it now to see if it's just for you, because I think that the nuance to this, and again, it seems like we're maybe actually, coasting out of this, we'll see, has been the high contagion rate or high risk of contagion for, what is this, essentially a very dangerous disease pre-vaccine or to people who have pre-existing conditions. But the other thing is that one of the things we've seen with our staff is that they have to stay home to take care of somebody else who's got it, or because, for instance, if your child can't go to school because they, were exposed or whatever, I mean, they are loosening all this stuff up. You couldn't come to work because of that, so it's complicated, I mean, it almost feels like we're addressing this a little too late in some ways. I hope we are, honestly. That would be nice. But if we are, that's great, then nobody will need to use it, If we put it in place, it would just be like, well, that was a nice idea. We never needed to use that. But I'm not opposed to, call it something else. The state calls it COVID leave. That's what it's for. It's not, you can't use it for anything else. And again, it's kind of, it was created because it's such an unusual, has been for the past 2 years, such an unusual circumstance. So I'm not opposed to building this kind of leave. And I don't know if calendar year seems like, maybe you could just say I don't know how you would do it. I feel like fiscal year would make more sense because that's what we're budgeting on. If we're going to talk about that question. But anyways, I'm not against doing this. What does everybody else think?
I would venture to say that I'm in agreement with your comment about providing administrative leave. To Councilman Hull's point about it, if you were ill, the only difference is, there have been flu situations where, they were at, I'm going to say, hopefully say this right, epidemic level, but not pandemic level. And that's what I think the defining point is here. This is a pandemic which, ravaged our country for roughly 2 years. And frankly, in our situation here in New Windsor, I think we do, obviously we value our employees for such a small town. We have to kind of protect them in that particular unusual and extraordinary circumstance. So I would say while other agencies have their way of handling this situation, I think we have to kind of modify ours to fit our particular situation in our small town. So 10 days, I understand it. The good thing is it says up to 10 days.
Right.
So there is some ability to kind of not use that full 10 days. So I think in this particular case, my opinion is that we probably are headed down the right path in our particular circumstances.
I'm going to agree with that too, because, I'm basing my knowledge of it as to what the school system does. And, the school system just shut down for like a week, and we all transferred into working online, and then we were working online from working from home. So, people were already at home. And, I don't know how many people, you kind of lost track of who was taken off and who wasn't. You just didn't know. So, I just think that we are a small jurisdiction, and we have to work with what works best for our town. And I feel like what's being proposed is good.
And I know it was brought up last time, the conversation about there's no cost, and then it was like, I think it was Councilman Hoffman part, well, there is a cost because we're paying people who are not working, which is true. But on the other hand, I think we have to show our folks that we value them. I mean, this is like I said, I used this analogy last time when I was talking about, when somebody's not here. There's only a few cogs in this machine. If one cog isn't here, that's a problem, so if somebody says, well, I'm not gonna work for you anymore because, you're not taking good care of me as an employee.
I would just like to point out that opposing administrative leave for somebody that's sick is not saying that they don't value them.
No, I know, but I think that this is like another way to give back to people who are very devoted to their jobs. I wasn't saying that, I know you value everybody, I've seen you. I was more of a high-level thing that people could read it, staff could read it that way, not that they
Yeah.
personally think you think that. They know how much you value them. There's no
Well-
doubt about that.
In the competitive world we live in and trying to acquire human resources to do these jobs, it becomes a benefit that people certainly can see. And so I think that helps.
I think there's a really good chance if things continue the path we're on, nobody's gonna need to take it anyways.
Right.
So let me just, in the last bullet there, I actually was rereading it, and I think basically I would want to add in there that, in addition to, if an employee has had to quarantine or take care of an immediate family member while quarantining, is vaccinated, and what I wanted to add is, and has followed the procedure that we adopt here, basically, or generally set. I want to throw that in, and as provided the requested, testing results and doctor's notes and things like that. And then, would be eligible for, for up to 10 days. And then I will also add, per approval by myself, because I'm going to oversee the staff in general that are getting paid and doing payroll and things like that in conjunction with Donna doing the payroll itself.
Yeah, you'd be sort of checking, it'd be like not like, oh, okay, you're automatically out for 10 days.
Right, and I think, back, and I don't want to open this can of worms again, but if you're going to make the employee use their accrued leave time, you're paying that employee anyway. Now, this however you look at it, may be considered additional leave time that they would have, that they would have access to in the event that they would need it. But if we say no to any kind of administrative leave, then they're either going to take it without pay, or they're going to use their leave time, which it's their time. I mean,
Well, and they need to, because if you're sick, you shouldn't be around anybody else anyway, so.
right.
So.
And that's very, I mean, it's important anywhere, but we're very, very aware and cautious of it here, being so small, because it can take us out in a heartbeat if everybody gets it and isn't taking care of staying separated and staying home and testing when they not putting anything to chance. I mean, it's going to affect all of us very quickly. So I think we've done a good job doing that for sure. Is there any retroactivity to this? If there's been a case, is this moving forward, or are we allowing any retro time back or anything like that? I'm just asking the question.
Do you have people who had to miss a week because they had COVID? I mean, everybody here.
Well, the retroactive won't, according to this policy, wouldn't apply because you don't have copies of a doctor's note.
Well, that's true.
That's to Kim's point that we're kind of doing this later. But to answer your question, yes.
Okay, I don't know, yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I don't know that we could meet all the criteria for, that you've laid out here for somebody that's already gone through that problem.
right. Okay.
I mean, if God, hopefully this will not happen, but there could be a new strain and,
Yeah.
you know.
I'll fine tune this a little bit, add my few little things back in here.
Send that to me.
And send that back all to you and to.
So
as well.
I have one other thing, but Gary is reading your last paragraph. This looks like it's all applicable to someone that is vaccinated. If someone is not vaccinated, all bets are off, they're on their own, is that what we're saying? And do you, as the town manager and kind of the overseer, know everyone's vaccination status? And have you asked that question and been told and received their cards, and I hate to go down this road,
Yeah,
but
that's-
we say vaccinated.
Yep, it's a good point.
That's what the state requires. You can't use
I
COVID leave if you're not.
I know verbally who has and who has not, but I've not gone to the next step of saying, show me your vaccination card. I'd be glad and willing, it's on my phone, it's in my pocket, to show it to anybody. Now, some other people are different, so I put that in there basically from what I'd heard from the state requirement. If you all don't want to require that, I put that in there.
Is it legal for him to ask for that? I mean,
You know, this is an interesting time, because things that were not legal to ask,
Right.
and certainly not legal to demand, suddenly seem to be. I don't think there's been any judicial determination on those things,
There wouldn't be any need to ask.
unless they're asking for
Person
time
asks for
off.
the leave.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't think you should
Wouldn't ask.
say, oh, by the way, in order to work here.
No.
You need, I don't think we're in that place. If we ever were, I hope you're right that we aren't now. But, it's really strange. That is a question that frankly I've been asking.
Well, I think that's why the state calls it COVID.
Yeah, they call it
leave.
specific.
They don't call it
and-
administrative leave, they don't call it sick leave, they call it COVID leave.
Well, so in that situation then, if we had an employee who was vaccinated and came to work and had COVID, they can still get COVID even though they're vaccinated.
Oh, yeah.
And they can still give it to someone who is not vaccinated, and that
Or
person can
someone
say,
who's vaccinated.
that person gave it to me, and now I can't take COVID administrative leave in the town, even though I got it from this dude who was vaccinated. Right, that's-
It's a good point, and I certainly don't want to
if
get.
the vaccination was a plus or a minus, and I would have no problem with saying if you're vaccinated. But it's such a gray area to me, and we are so small here in the town office, that it seems to be almost a disservice. I don't, they can certainly get it somewhere else and not in the town office. But I don't know, I just thought I would.
It's a
Pull
good
that.
point, and I certainly don't want to get into any, myself in any predicament, or the town, or any staff people or members in any kind of, predicament with it, so.
I personally feel that because of the way the vaccine works and has shown that it works, that should be almost taken out of there. And if someone follows this process and they take COVID tests and they show up positive, that they should be able to take advantage of this if we do it. That's just my opinion. Y'all may want to weigh in.
Yeah, I mean, I
on
think that one of the things that happened, and I'm on a state task force for this, is one of the things that happened with the vaccines is they were not messaged properly to the general public, because there was never a promise that you would not get it.
Right.
The assurance was that most people who get fully vaccinated would not die, would not end up hospitalized. It just like the flu, you can still get the flu. One of my kids had the chicken pox vaccine, still got the chicken pox, but he didn't get really sick. So, it was not, I think back in the beginning when people were dying in, thousands at a time, it was just pushing the safety of it. So, it's never said, well, if you get vaccinated, you'll never get it. But you're probably not gonna get really sick, and you're very unlikely to die if you get vaccinated. So that really is, I think in the beginning when the state put that policy, and as I reflect back, that was months ago, it was when the vaccination rates were a lot lower, and it was a way to encourage employees to get vaccinated. Because,
Well, I've done my encouraging, so.
yeah, well, at this point, people are either
So
gonna do it
are
or
you
they're
all
not.
in agreement to remove that portion of the requirement?
So what you're saying is you're just going to take out the requirement that they have to be vaccinated?
Right,
They're-
everything else.
All the
have to
other
follow
testing and
the
all that,
Procedure, the
basically.
policy, provide the testing, and
Yeah.
doctor's notes that if they're into a doctor and visiting and getting clearance and that kind of thing.
So, before we do that, let me ask this question. The way it's written with it in there, isn't there So if we kind of make ourselves an extension of what the state does, aren't we kind of working off a more solid ground? I mean, we're not a state agency, but we are a government agency in the state of Maryland. If we kind of shield ourselves by the state policy, are we in a little better position than taking it out and kind of deviating from what the state says?
I don't think that's really, everybody looks at me. I don't think that there's, for one thing, I don't think there's an answer
Okay.
to that. I think, and again, this is kind of just my opinion, not substantive, but whatever you choose to do should be what suits your very small staff
Right.
best. And what suits the staff in New Windsor might not suit the staff in Gaithersburg. So I don't think you get in trouble whichever way you take it.
Right.
If you have that requirement or don't. I don't think that is going to be a legal issue for you. So you, and certainly you, have to figure out which is going to work best for your staff.
Might I ask why you chose Gaithersburg?
Just because it's my, I don't know anything about
I'm
Gaithersburg.
teasing.
Frankly, I'm not sure I've ever even been there, but I know it's big and scary. Don't go there.
It's not that
I always
scary.
pick someplace big. Down that way, or that way, wherever Gaithersburg is. It's terrible. I know where to go in Carroll County. Once I leave the county, I'm just like lost. I've been here 30 years.
I asked that to be facetious, but I mean, if you look at Carroll County and Montgomery County, there's drastic differences.
Yeah.
And if someone were to say, read, Damascus's town, the town of Damascus's guidelines on this versus ours, they would say, that makes sense.
Yeah. Or you see that theirs is a 19-page document.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we are
So-
small and we do have to.
You have to do what
look
suits
things-
you
Look through things
best.
through that lens. That just like we're deciding that we want to make this a way of showing our small staff that we value them, and protect them from each other so that somebody sick isn't coming into the office and making everybody else sick.
So are we removing it or not?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Removing?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
So you'll rewrite it and just send it to us? Okay.
I'll
Thanks.
resend it. All right, thank you.
Alrighty. Moving on, we're gonna go with the State Highway Administration's
Yeah.
Streetscape Task
I
Force
always get that
Committee.
because I don't really,
Update of the members
I
at the
wouldn't
first meeting.
if I weren't leaving anyway.
Right.
All right, but since these three things really have nothing to do with me, and I definitely don't want to waste your money listening to your budget conversations,
No, I take that personally.
well,
No, just kidding.
then you can call me tomorrow and tell me
I'll
all
tell you all
about it.
about it. All you want to hear.
I never go sit through the budget. These folks can attest.
All right, so basically, I'll let you take this, Mayor, but we do have our first meeting with the task force scheduled for this Friday at 9 o'clock here. So Mayor's got Uncle Mattie's on board as a business, which obviously they would be directly affected by the project being right there on Main Street. We're still looking for a resident yet, which we're working on, but we do have, the task force is going to be myself, Mayor Green, either Byron Welker as the fire chief, he's going to send for Friday, he's going to send us Captain Brad Kramer in his replace as a representative, but someone from the fire department will be on there. And
Nice.
then Councilman Huffman and Councilwoman Gribben-Lindeman. So that's, we got our first meeting this Friday at 9 o'clock here at Town Hall. There's going to be probably, I think, 4 or 5 representatives from the state. And it's pretty much basically just kicking things off again, getting everybody together and talking about the project currently. So you want
You got it covered.
Oh, can I just ask a question? I mean, and when we kick it off on Friday, like, do we have any kind of an idea of what the timeline from then to the end of the project would be, or would they be
That's
addressing?
something that we'll have to talk about. That's something hopefully that State Highway can provide information on. And, I mean, I can tell you the start of their project doesn't start until our water line's done.
Oh, okay.
So we start our water line project tomorrow. It's
Okay.
a year and a half at best.
Oh, okay.
On a good years. You know, so we got to get our water line done first, and then that's the idea. They come in behind us.
And that starts tomorrow? No. I thought that's what you said.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
I'm working on it.
People that are gonna be on that would like a little bit more notice than that.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to move on to the Carroll County Chapter MML dinners and a discussion to allow spouses to attend and the town to pay.
Yeah, we got an email from Manchester, Mayor Green and myself on February 8th, and I forwarded it to the council on the 9th. Manchester is hosting the next quarterly MML chapter dinner meeting on March 17th. Just wanted to maybe bounce it to you all to revisit. You know, we stopped doing these meetings for a while due to COVID. Looks like they're starting to pick back up, but the cost of these things seems to be getting pretty salty, in my opinion. I mean, Manchester's charging $40 a head. So if do you all want to revisit or rethink having spouses attend and being paid for by the town is the question. It used to be that spouses only went, if I'm not mistaken, Don, they went to like the Christmas one that was held during Christmas. But we got 7 of us, 8 of us here times 2 times 40 for a meeting. That's a lot of money. And it seems to be the norm now with the cost being pretty substantive. So I just wanted to put it on there and remind you all about the meeting. First of all, to let the RSVP date is March 3rd. So let Donna know well ahead of that so she can get our order in and the payment prior to the March 3rd cutoff. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
So when I came on board and started to attend the dinners, I was told that, and since I've been doing it, how many years that is now, that the spouses are always invited to these unless the municipality who was hosting it did not have room for spouses, and that was an occasional thing. And I was told at that time that it was kind of a goodwill gesture to the council and mayor's spouse for the amount of time that we all put in for rather small compensation that the spouses attend a once a quarter dinner, a chicken dinner at some town's fire hall, right, or wherever it may be. It was not a big deal, and as Gary said, they were not $40 a pop like they are now. And I always thought that it was nice that the spouses were there because it's supposed to be a relationship building situation for all of us. I know that my wife talks to most of the mayors there and has built relationships with all of us. She's probably better than I have. She's very good at that. So I always thought it was a good thing that the town did that. And New Windsor pretty much always made a good show at the MML dinners, and that was nice. I always thought. I don't know what budget line that was being paid out of, and if we have budget issues with that line. If it's the same line as the MML conferences, summer conference and things like that we go to, I know that we don't attend at the same volume that we did in the past. I don't know. So I guess my thought is if it's a budget issue, then I'm not opposed to the town not paying the spouses, and if we individually want to pay the $40 for our spouse to go with us, that's on us. I have no problem with that. But if it's not a budget issue and it's just, yeah, just bring it to your attention, then I always thought it was a goodwill and a nice thing that the town did, but.
Well, I'm just going to say, since, I started, I think after COVID was already up and running. I mean, I haven't even been here, I guess I'll be a full year next month. And, I wasn't even sure how many people were going to these meetings and things, and I just am, a little lost on whether are we supposed to be going to these meetings, or is this does everybody go, or?
I mean, we all, like Gary said, or Dave said, I guess, we as the New Windsor Town Council and mayor almost always had a really good turnout. I would say most of the council people attended those meetings regularly, and of course, the mayor. Not every town is like that, some towns,
some
but
don't show up at
don't
all.
show it all. But I mean, COVID is, of course, isn't a good time to look at it, but,
Right.
I always found them very informative, and it's nice to make connections with other, council people, and, you see some of the same people over and over again, so, I certainly would, now I'm happy that they're gonna have an in-person one. I am planning to go to it. It's, but I agree with Councilman Hoffman. I guess I'd like to just talk about, what's the impact on the budget, and certainly we don't want to be going over a line item because the price is going up, but,
Donna, what do you usually pay that out of?
Town activities. Because it's not really a training. It's
Right,
not
no, it's
professional
just-
training.
no.
It's not a conference, so it comes out of town activities.
Which is, I'm looking for that.
Oh, here's the other thing I'm going to bring up. And this is not only just for these dinners, but for the conferences or any of the training that you go to. If the town puts the money out and we're paying, but you don't go, how do you want to address that? I mean,
Let it be paid, yeah.
it's been paid, but
Right.
I guess if that does that need an adoption for any
it
resolution or
would be a
anything?
policy change, yes. I mean, it doesn't really need.
I'm not opposed to having
I
a
think it would be-
reimbursement.
Yeah, I think it would be a policy that would need to be
Sure.
put into place, I mean, certainly emergencies come up, but if we put the money out and you just don't feel like going,
Yeah,
I mean.
yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think, let's write something
so-
up that
so I
says,
think,
Gary
especially
since it's going up.
Something together.
Yeah, just have something, you and Michelle can put something together. We'll talk about it tomorrow. but-
Okay, so, but back to.
But back to this.
The town activities has not been, we have not gone over budget on that, at least based on what I'm looking at.
Only because of the wreaths this year and anything else that has come out of there. But that doesn't always
But
happen.
that,
Right,
but
that's,
that,
that's,
wait a
a-
minute, that's,
yeah.
that's
That's an
equipment
unusual
seasonal.
expense.
The reeds were out of a different line item.
Oh, they were?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Okay.
under parks and equipment repair
Oh,
seasonal.
okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Where did you find that, Gary?
What line item?
Or it's under,
Miscellaneous, under
Miscellaneous.
general fund. It's, I'm sorry, parks,
Parks,
town activities, 131 line item.
Parks and Rec, or however you want to say
See it?
Oh, wow.
Well, your town activity, that's
So I guess I'll just add that I'm not opposed to having spouses there. Like Dave said, it is nice to have a spouse there to just show them that we care about their involvement too, because it's just as hard on spouses as it is. It takes a lot of time out of our schedules. I'm not opposed to having, like, paying for the spouses out of our own pocket. I've always offered to pay for my spouse.
That's true.
And it's just, I feel that, you know, if the town covers me, that's a nice goodwill on the town's part. And I wouldn't have any problem paying for my spouse.
Anyone else?
Pretty good?
I mean, you know, maybe, not every time, but, you know, sometimes it is nice for the town to take and pay for the spouses. But MML, we generally meet, you know, was it every quarter, every month? Quarterly. So, I mean, it's 4 times a year, 3 times a year. It's not too awful.
Your point being that it's not an overwhelming expense.
Right. I mean, yeah, they are getting a little pricey, you know, for
Yeah.
what it is, but it is what it is.
Town activities, is that also like the, you know, music on the main?
Yep.
Do we want to would we want to do something like, say that the town pays for the Christmas one that is hosted, and if you want to bring your spouse to the others, then we pay the bill ourselves?
Yeah. That's an idea.
That's kind of how it started originally, a while back, wasn't it?
When I first started with the town, it was just basically the spouses went to the Christmas one. I don't know what made that so special, but I guess because it was Christmas time. And then somewhere along the line, the mayor changed it, and it wasn't really, it's not really an issue now, but it's just more financially prominent that it's gotten expensive, you know.
So we just want to keep it back to the
As opposed
Christmas
to, we
one.
were paying probably $20 a person.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I just want to ask while we're talking about this, I mean, I'm fine with whatever we come up with, I just, trying to just get the facts straight. Like, when they have the conference in Ocean City, does the town pay for us as representatives to go to that, or is that,
yeah.
okay?
But that's under a different line item.
Oh, okay, and then if we bring our spouse to that, we just pay for our spouse? Can we bring our spouse to that?
Yeah.
Okay, but then we just pay for them?
I mean, they don't, in general, the spouse doesn't go to, you know,
No, they stopped them being able to.
they can't
attend
go to
some
anything. I mean,
conferences
if
ago.
they come with you, you know, they can find something else to do while you're at the workshops and
Right, I didn't
stuff.
think that, yeah, we come to the
Yeah,
workshops
there's
and
no, the
stuff,
town
yeah.
doesn't, you know, I mean, obviously, you're in this hotel room that the town's paying for, but, you know, it doesn't cost, you know, if your spouse there, it would have cost the same whether they were there or not. you know.
Right, okay.
Uh,
Yeah, and they also recently stopped you from going to the expo. The spouses used to be able to go in the expo as well.
Yeah.
They stopped doing that now. They said that they might add it back,
That's
but,
Yeah, probably,
yeah.
yeah.
The majority of the day, though, you're in conference meetings.
Yeah.
How about the open session where the keynote speaker was? They always allowed the spouses at that too. did they?
That wasn't last year.
But that was probably because of
But
COVID.
it also was COVID.
Yeah, they're probably
Yeah,
trying
they
to keep the
didn't have-
numbers down, yeah.
So are all of you guys going to the conference?
I can't, unfortunately, I didn't realize they were gonna make it so early this year, and I can't go. It's like the 12th or something like that of
Is
June,
anybody going?
so.
Which one are you talking about now?
Yeah, she's
Conference
talking
Ocean
about the
City.
Talking
summer,
about Manchester.
yeah.
You talking about Manchester or the summer
No,
conference?
she was switching over to the summer conference.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around here.
Yeah, yeah.
What do we need to do? Do we need to have a motion about this?
No,
yeah.
I mean,
just wanted-
I don't,
just get your
let's just say,
names into me and whether they're going, and
you want to say that we'll invite our spouses on as a thank you at Christmas?
Yeah,
Holiday one, and then we
That
pay the
sounds
rest of the
good.
time? I mean, I'm fine
Michelle and
with
I will
that.
put together some verbiage
Yeah,
for that.
Yeah,
just
I
sum
mean,
it up
when
along
you
with-
sent that out, I immediately said, I'll just pay,
Yeah,
because I want him to come with me, so I don't mind
just-
paying.
Just let me know
Yeah.
who's going, please, before the 3rd.
Spend half my check on it, half of my town check on it. Right?
obviously what will happen is the town will pay for everybody.
Yeah, and then we'll
When I send
reimburse.
the reservation, and then you'll have to.
Just write you a
reimburse.
check, yeah.
So we just write it to the town? The
Yes.
check to the town? Okay.
Not Donna personally. She might tell you differently.
Early retirement gift.
Yeah, there you go.
All righty, we're through that one. Let's move on to item number 7, which will be the.
All right, save the best for last.
Oh, yay.
Anybody need a break?
Let's just go.
All right. Well, so we're in a really good spot right now. We've been pushing pretty hard to get this to this point. So all but a few of the line items have been input in the general fund revenues and expenditures and the enterprise fund revenue and expenditures. So this is really our first look at and review of the budget as a whole. What I've done here is, and you have a copy of this in your folder, is just kind of go down. I'm not going to go sit here and go through every line item because there's like 450 of them. But I'm just hitting some highlights in each of the areas and just give a little general explanation at certain points. So starting at the top, working from the top down, the budget's set up for the folks that are new is the top part of the budget is general fund, and you start off in revenues, and then you go into your expenses for your different categories. And then the second part is enterprise fund, same thing. You got your revenues, your expenditures, and then at the bottom is a separate breakout just showing MES's water and sewer line items, which are incorporated into the enterprise fund water and sewer sections. So I'll just start at the top. If anyone has any questions, stop me. If not, you can hit me at the end with them. So the general fund revenue highlights number, and the numbers equate to the line items. Number 11 is real property. That is up 25,000. Your county program, I highlighted these should be in yellow on your seats, the ones I'm talking about. The county program is up 14,666, which is even higher than what they thought was going to be when they did the new town agreement. I got an email from Heidi Pepin at the county, and she said that's the number, and I'm like, that's another $7-8 grand than what they said it was going to be, so that's good. Number 42, line item 42, is the cell tower lease. Now that's down 30,113, and that is due to the T-Mobile Sprint merger situation we got going on there. So overall, you'll see line 44 is the total general revenue. Right now is at a plus of 27,053. So then you go into your general fund expenditures. Again, it's a complete, except for a few line items which are noted below in miscellaneous. Your professional, where's the first one? Under professional services, legal fees, that's Michelle's fees. That's going up 4,000. Michelle's going to be involved with, as she's already been, with the revision of the code and the charter, and also with Planning Commission doing updates to the comprehensive plan. So that's up 4,000. Public Works, line item, I'm scrolling and talking at the same time, line item 100 is up 25,144. So this is a combination of regular COLA or cost of living adjustments, increases for staff, and then the new position that I mentioned last time when we first got started. The new proposed position is titled at this point Utilities and Public Works Maintenance, and right now is set up to be a 50-50 split between general fund and enterprise fund. All the staff are split percentage-wise depending on what they do out of general fund and enterprise fund. We all have different, some of us have the same splits, but everybody's split up in the budget and paid out of different parts of the budget.
Do you know, real quick, what percentage of that is COLA versus the new position? Because I'm just interested, is the raise on par with the raise in inflation, or is it?
For the most part, on average, it probably is. It fluctuates by employee. The position itself is, again, like I said, it's 50-50 split, and it is, it's established, or set up right now to be, it's 40, I think it's 40, I got it broken down. So because it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
It's, the salary's 21,840 for each, for general fund and enterprise funds. So times two, that would be the yearly salary, and then you also have to include, which we'll see later down here, is health benefits, and then you also have retirement, which you're not eligible until the first year, but those are kind of the bulk of what makes up a new position. You have clothing and stuff like that, but that's more minor in the budget. So it's if you add those three together on salary, health insurance, and retirement after the first year, it's just under $26,000 in each fund for that position. So does that sort of explain?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, if we're gonna give a COLA increase, that it's not, 2% when inflation's 8%.
Yeah, inflation's anywhere from 8 to
So I wanna make
10%
sure that,
right now.
they actually do.
So they're not all 8, they're not all 8 to 10%, I can tell you that, but they're not 2% either.
Okay.
I can look at that too. This is just, like I said, first take here. All right, where'd I leave off? Okay, so streetlights, 113, I believe. Streetlights, we pay the electricity on the streetlights. Anything that's up 6,000. We have a new contract and a new kilowatt rate, which is higher than our previous rate. So anything related, there's a couple line items that are in here that are related to electric. It's up basically, I use 20%, just for the projected increase of that. 115 is trash and household and recycling collection. Now, it's shown as a $23,000 increase. That needs to have a little bit of explanation. And what that is when the FY22 budget was prepared, the trash and recycling contract had not been rebid yet, okay? At the time when we were doing the 22 budget, I put in a 5% increase anticipating a new contract. However, when the contract was rebid in late May, we'd already adopted the budget, and used bid came in much higher with we went with the large recycle toters, and then their price per unit cost was higher than what I had inflated at 5%. So I had put in for FY22, based on a 5% increase, a budget of $101,000. And based on used bids, came in after that, like I said, was much higher. It was projected to be off of their actual bid numbers at $122,500. So the real difference, the real increase from used contract from the first year to the second year is only $2,500. And that's based on, at this point in the year, I project tonnage for recycling and trash. And then based on where I'm at, I keep a running total on a spreadsheet, and I project that cost out. So that's what that's based on, and then their increase in the per unit stop pickup, the Lions Club cans, and the dumpsters, which is all part of their contract. It's a 3-year contract. So on the budget line item, you see it as a $23,000 increase, but that was because it was underestimated in the FY22 budget. It's more of a $2,500 budget. So I wanted to give a little bit of explanation on that. Down to parks.
Capital project.
Oh, yeah, sorry, thank you. 120 is the capital project budget line item. This gets filled in last, and what we'll do is when we finalize these last couple things, you look down to, in this case, you look down to line item 147, which is at the bottom of the general fund there, and you take the difference between your revenues and expenditures once the last couple line items come in, and then that difference goes up to that capital project budget line item to balance that portion of the budget. So it fluctuates, you do everything, you get all your other stuff in, and then what's left there goes into that as for capital project budgeting. So that will get input to balance things out. And you'll see that in the enterprise fund as well. Now down to parks. Parks under 129, equipment repair seasonal. That's down 17,000 to be in line with prior years, prior to '22. In '22, we increased the budget significantly for the new Christmas wreaths, which we've purchased and got done. So that line item is down.
Do you have line items? Do you have line numbers?
I don't,
gonna
because
say,
I
I
have
don't have any-
PDF.
I don't have any
Yeah, they
numbers.
He's got the Excel, so.
They don't have line numbers.
I'm sorry.
I'm just
So
looking
I'm
for,
going, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
I just keep looking for the words that you say, and then I find it. I'm like this.
Too,
They don't
so.
have line items.
I'm thinking I have the wrong one for a while, and then I
I'll
figured it
have to
out.
Well, when you do it as a PDF, it doesn't.
Yeah, it gets
copy
rid of that, yeah.
Sorry about that. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, then miscellaneous is the healthcare benefit. That is up 7,733. Again, this is for the Public Works maintenance worker. That's, the current position is taking the insurance now, where the prior position did not take it. And then that's also accounting for the new position taking it. You have to budget for the new position taking insurance, whether they take it or not. So that's why that's up. 135 is one of the items, I'm sorry, insurance still needs to be complete, and payroll expense still needs to be complete. We'll be filling those in later this week when Donna and I meet, I think on Thursday. So overall, with a few line items not yet filled in, you can see, and these numbers will all balance out, so don't get too excited about these numbers yet. The expenditures are down 130,583. The general fund balance is the 157,636. And again, these will be balanced when the insurance and the payroll expense and then the capital budget number is input in there. The bottom line is if you look into the FY22 budget line, which is the third line over from the right, third column over from the right, you see it zeroed out. And that's the goal of the budget, is when you get done each section, it has to balance out. It has to zero out. So any questions on general fund? I do want to add one thing. There was mention, and this is not in my report, I wrote this later. There was mention of adding a second speed sign into the budget. Deputy Calusi got price from the company that we currently have, which is All Traffic Solutions, and that is for a sign and the batteries and the mounting, the whole 9 yards, including the $1,500 per year contract or amount each year. It's $5,825 for a new sign through those guys. Then after that, it would be $1,500 yearly, which is what we're paying for the sign now. He also got a price from Traffic Logics of a similar sign, but obviously from a different company. It's a little better of a price at $3,160, and then $400 yearly, that's a cloud service. They give you the first year for free. If you want to continue with cloud service and having the information go to the cloud, you pay your $400. If not, you can do it there's a different way of getting the data.
400's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot better, yeah. I believe that would end up going into line item, I'm not going to say the number. Yeah, under public safety, there's, equipment and supplies is where we would have to put that increase in there, should we do that. Now, I'm going to meet, I say we just think about that. I wanted to mention it, and then at the March council meeting, which is the 3rd, it's coming right behind this, Deputy Calusi will be here, and we can kind of get his input from that. I think he was trying to get a meeting set up with his folks at the sheriff's office, because they're thinking about switching, they use the same guys that we use now, and with this, based on this price of this other sign, they're thinking about changing too.
So I was hoping we could sell them our other one.
So, I'd say we just keep that, I wanted to mention that. I don't have anything in the budget right now for it, but I know there was mention of it, and we can discuss it further when Deputy Calusi's here at the March council meeting. All right? Moving on. Down to the enterprise fund. Again, starting with revenues. It's my favorite part because these are good. So last year, when we budgeted, we only used used a conservative number of 8 EDUs, new homes each year, to calculate everything. This year, based on the way Snyder Summit's been booming, we're going to use 12, which is in accordance with their public works agreement. Last year, we just went conservative with code. We weren't sure where things were, and they're building like hotcakes up there. So sewer usage receipts is up $47,250. Again, all this is based on 12 new homes or EDUs. Sewer hookup fees is up $34,000. Water hookup fees are up $41,850, and water usage receipts are up $21,000. I added in a line. It's called the American Rescue Plan Act. It's highlighted there, and put in the first tranche of money that we received, the $688,696. It needs to be shown as a revenue, because it is, but remember, we already earmarked that for College Blue Ridge Pump Station. But we want to show it in there, so that's kind of skewing our our numbers a little bit, but I've made it the adjustment. If you see total revenue, I've taken that number out of there, but we're showing it as a revenue income there. So overall, not including the ARPA money, we're to the good of $145,200 in revenues right now.
Hey, Gary, so in that vein where you took it out of the revenue, the total revenue, would it make sense to show it as an expenditure based on a project, on what we're earmarking?
There.
Yeah, it's in the other tabs with you'll see two other tabs down the bottom there are capital budget general and capital budget enterprise. That would actually be in the enterprise side. It's listed as a project. It'll be listed as a project in there. I'm still finalizing that tab, but it's not specifically in the budget that you see here as a revenue out.
I'm sorry, where you said tab.
I don't know if they have
It's on
tabs.
his Excel.
It's
They don't
The
have-
PDF just has the budget.
Sorry.
It's different.
Just another
Excel.
page,
Looking for this tab.
no tabs.
So,
It will be noted.
10-4.
okay, so then moving on to the expenditures. Again, we have about 5 line items and 2, and I'll get into explaining them here in a minute. So emergency repairs, this is water. Emergency repairs is up $20,000. Simply put, look at your prior years. Your FY20 actual was $71,475. Your FY21 actual was $63,278, and your year-to-date for '22 is $57,000. So we have to increase that. I mean, that's just it. We've been getting hit with emergency stuff left and right. So that's the explanation for that. Good news, based on decision you all made, the loans, the chlorine tank, the College Blue Ridge, Dennings Well, and new water tank have been paid off. So you'll see those zeroed out there. Now, keep in mind, we got the Maryland 31 water line project. We are going to, the loan for that project at approximately $1.96 million, which we decided, and that is about, from that spreadsheet, is about a $78,000 a year payment. So we did not put that in the budget this year because we're not sure when we're going to accrue that, take on that loan. If it takes if it takes effect while we're in fiscal year this 23, then we amend the budget at that time. But I didn't want to show it in there until we know for sure when it's going to be. So we have that. But you still if you look at the 4 loans we paid off the month, those are in the 22 budget, those 4 line items, those were monthly, yearly payments, so that's $104,000 that we don't have. So we're still to the good like we had planned for when we do take the loan for the water line. MES water, you'll see it at the bottom, it comes up into here, and that is up $11,758, which is an increase of 14.3%, and that is primarily salary increase. Down, you see at the bottom, it's broken down, each water and sewer is broken down into about 6 line items. Now, last year, if you recall, their increase was modest, like 2.5 to less than 3% on the water and sewer. This year, it's not. You'll see it's 14.3% on the water, and on the sewer, I think it's 10.6, which we'll get to here in shortly. SCADA, there are 2, let me get down here again. There are 2 new line items for a total of $8,900. They're new line items for SCADA. One of those is what they are individually is there's the monthly contract for the SCADA is the 1 line item, and then we added a line item in for any future operational improvements, upgrades for things that are in addition to down the road from what we're upgrading now on the SCADA system. That was Wayne and I's discussion. We put those in. Where are we at? Then we get to the capital project budget and the 3 Rs. They're right after each other together there, and they again get filled in at last when you take the difference of what you have from your expenditures to your revenues to your expenditures. Again, you split it up. We've been putting $50,000 in the 3 Rs, and then the remainder into the capital project again to balance that section of the water expenditures.
Real quick, it says new meters for developments. Is that just the new developments, or is that also replacement of existing meters?
No, that is for just the new developments, and that's paid for. Developers paying those fees, and that came from a revenue up top, and then it comes out as an expense.
Gary, what is the 3 Rs?
It's 3 Rs is your
Renew, replace, repair.
I got to stop and think because every word that starts with R, I don't put it in right. But that's all part of things that you encounter that fit that category of things. If you're going to replace older meters in town, if you've got a meter that's been in somebody's house 15, 20 years, you're replacing that meter. That falls into that category. Just things that's a different way of accounting for stuff in the water and sewer. There's the 3 Rs in the sewer as well.
Okay.
And year-to-date, we don't have anything there yet?
No.
Okay. Did I just jinx us?
What?
I said, did I just jinx us?
No. Okay, so then getting down to the sewer there. Again, electric on the sewer side is much higher because that's the wastewater plant, and you have the pump stations. They're bigger facilities and bigger electric users. Again, it's up 9,000 again for the increase in the kilowatt charges with the new contract. Your MES sewer.
Gary, can I jump in there?
Sure. Yep.
I just want you all to understand the electric. I want to go into a little more detail there because the contract itself, we enter in for, I believe it's 5 years, and we lock in for the price. That is not what has affected this. What has affected this is this new law that just went into effect for this kilowattage that wasn't expected. So Gary's trying to compensate for basically that, not for our contract we signed.
I may have stated that
Yeah.
wrong, yeah. Thank you.
So I don't know that it's gonna be that much, we just wanted to make sure we were covered, in case it is.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. The MES sewer is up 11,936, and that is 10.6%, which is, again, primarily salary increases. And you can again see that at the bottom. Sludge disposal is down 14,000. In FY '22, we did repairs to the SBR tanks, which required a lot additional or more sludge hauling, so we don't have that going on. And the same thing I do with trash. It's a spreadsheet. I keep each month, I see what the tonnage is of everything going in. I project it out to where we're going to be tonnage-wise, and we're projected to be from now to the end of June, we're going to be at about 455,000 gallons, and then in '22, we were a little over 600,000 with the sludge, the additional sludge hauling. So there's a savings there. The cost has remained the same for hauling. I ask every year because that huge plant you see when you drive by 31 costs a lot of money. So I ask every year, and once again, they're not raising the sludge processing fees and hauling fees yet. So that's good. So we got some savings there. We're down on that category. Again, your capital, same thing. Capital project budget and 3 Rs. Again, they'll get put in last to balance that out. So those 4 line items in water and sewer are the 4 outstanding line items. And then
Here's the answer to your question.
payroll expense, which is under personnel, that's something that Donna and I need to put in when we meet on Thursday. But down under personnel, you got executive salaries, that's up 3,810. Again, that's the cost of living increases. And then 233 is your public works salaries, and that's up 28,632, which is cost of living and the new position. So, and the reason that's higher down here under enterprise, that all works out per the employee splits. Okay, so like mine, for instance, is 75-25. Wayne's 75-25. Alan's, they're different splits, so they're heavier. It's heavier on the enterprise fund side. That's why that overall increase is more than it was on the general fund side. And I said payroll expense will fill that out, and that should be able to allow us to balance everything out. So, I mean, in summary, I'll open this up here in a minute, but we're 98-99% complete at this first take. So please, I tried to get this to you. You probably saw an email over the weekend. Try to get it to you as soon as possible, but review it as presented, ask questions, provide input, shoot me emails, however you want to do it. Any changes, adjustments, whether they're minor or significant, will be made moving forward in accordance with keeping to our budget schedule, which we have to follow so we can get our information to the county on the tax rate. Donna, you've been here a while. When was the last time we had a tax rate increase? I want to say it's been 7 years.
About 7 years.
So,
Yeah. that sounds
7
right.
years. And as you see that, I think before I say anything, because it might not be in your version. No, the very top of the line, you'll see the tax rate. And obviously, it goes back to as far back as we're showing, but it's been 0.2615 for probably going into our 8th year. So That's a good thing.
I'm sorry, Gary, where is that?
That's all the way at the top of the budget, or top of the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
You'll see revenues
Oh, I
and
see.
then taxes. And then I'll obviously put it in when we adopt and get down the road with this. But at this point, I'm not seeing there any need for that at this point. That's not 100% positive, but unless you all tell me something drastically different.
I'm sorry, I missed that. You're not seeing any need to raise it, or you're not seeing?
Not at this point.
Okay.
You
So it's
will,
cons-
you will see it once you're maxed out with your developments.
Oh, okay.
You will
Coming
have
down the
enough
road.
left.
It's like the,
Then you'll need to reevaluate.
We're in a whole different situation than we were. When we raised the tax rate last time, because of the amount of houses that we had in our town, I think each penny that we raised it was only generating like $12,500, if I remember right.
Yep.
So when we raised it a nickel, I think we got like $60,000. That was it. And, of course, property values changed, and we have a lot more houses in town as well now. So it would be a whole different ballgame to look at
right.
in the future.
And the newer houses, to add to that, the newer houses you do have in both the Reserve and Snyder Summit have value to them,
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
a lot of value to them.
yeah.
So,
Well, they're certainly selling for a lot.
yeah, well, that's true. Value is in the eye of the beholder, I guess. But, yeah, so, I mean, yeah, it's just something to consider, but it's a good thing to say, but like Donna said, and I've been saying for a while, these development fees and revenues that we got, the area connection charges are gonna dry up sooner or later.
It's not a bottomless.
They're going, it's
yeah.
sooner than later.
Yeah.
Now you'll still have your usage revenues and everything, and just as a reminder, I use a calculation of 10,000 gallons per quarter as the average use. That's how I calculate those, both sewer revenues, usage revenues, and water, because sewer's based off water use. You don't meter sewer, you meter water. So everybody thinks, I want a sewer meter. You got one, it's a water meter. So, any questions? That was a lot of intel, a lot of information. Any particular questions? Let me have it.
Thank you both for everything. It's a lot of work,
Take some time to
a lot of work.
to go
Wayne,
down.
thank you,
Yeah,
Wayne.
Wayne, he's out there in Zoom land, I think.
Thank you, Wayne.
still.
He was in here.
Yes, thank you, Gary. It looks like you guys are really getting this down, though. I mean, I remember a
Some
few years
pressure
ago
on
as
me.
we started, it was really hard. I really
It's
appreciate
a
what you're
well-oiled
doing.
machine at this point.
3.
This is my fourth year, so
5.
I won't say it's easy, but it's getting easier. I've been through it a couple times, so it's a little different than the 1 year.
Keep
you got-
convincing yourself of that, Gary.
The 1 year, Dave was here, Kim was here, I did umpteen million revisions
Yes.
of the budget because
Oh,
we
you
were
did
we were
like 10 versions, and that was-
restructuring staff and positions, and it was very complicated. So this year compared to that so far, again, unless you guys steer me some other direction.
People, it's very, people don't understand how complicated it is to even run a small town. It's very, very
Well,
complicated.
I know you guys don't have your line items, but just so I have proof, there's 275 line items. Now, there's a couple spaces in there separating some things, but, and you're overall, you're basically around a $2.2 million budget total, everything, so.
Wait, anybody else have anything else?
So please take some time and look through it. If you see something and you don't know what it is or want to know what it is, reach out, shoot me an email. I have to ask Donna a lot of times what exactly is behind all these line items and what we use them for. I got my notes I keep out and that I hide, and I have to ask her every year, why did I put that in there? Just my notes. But I try to keep myself sane with it.
Anyone have anything else?
He has a couple more items.
Oh, yeah, So my notes, I'm sorry, the email from Kathy Dietrich on behalf of Roberta Wyndham, the email was sent 2/17 to all municipal mayors and town managers regarding an opportunity to partner on clean water projects with towns and the county.
We were shooting for the Route 31 water main replacement.
Yeah, so during the open session on February 10th, the Board of County Commissioners discussed and decided to explore the potential option to use a portion of the county's fiscal recovery funds to address eligible drinking water supply projects in the county. The board is considering water supply projects where municipalities would provide 50% matching funds. To that end, Kathy, on behalf of Roberta Wyndham, is reaching out to determine if our municipality, the other municipalities, would like to propose a project or projects for consideration. The deadline for proposal submission is March the 11th. So I think this is a very good opportunity to get some possible funding from the county for Maryland 31 water line and whatever else you might think. But I would think that would be at the top of the apple tree there to get. So there's in the email, you copied on that, right? There's basically a one-page document that you just click in and fill in the information. If you want to sit down and go over that with me, then let me know. Just let me know ahead of time because I got this week's kind of crazy, but.
Okay, that's fine. We got until the 11th, so.
Yeah, it's got to be in the March 11th.
Yep.
And then on Donna's position, so far received only one application so far, but the due date for cover letters and applications is Monday, the 28th at 3 p.m. I've reached out via email on the 14th to 4 potential qualified candidates. The ad, the job description, and application were attached to the emails, and I requested that they submit a cover letter and application at their earliest convenience, but no later than the 28th, because that's the cutoff, and that we're looking to start interviewing qualified candidates as soon as possible. So I followed up with those same people again, and the one lady did respond and said she's going to be getting something in. So I'm trying to keep pushing that as much as I can, but we'll see what happens here in the next week or so. And then we got our upcoming council meetings are March 2nd council, Wednesday next week, and then the March 21st work session.
And I just want to throw in there, I think we have a meeting for Music on the Main on Tuesday, March 8th.
Tuesday, March 8th.
Uh-huh,
7 p.m.
yes,
And that's here.
yes.
Is that open to the public, or is that just an organizational?
I think it was,
always
I'm
been
just
open to
basing on what we did last year.
The reason I'm asking is, can it be put on the website?
Yeah, it's always been open to the public.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Anything else? We have a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0.
At 9:55,
8:55.
8:55.
I was gonna say 9:55. That'd be so.
It feels like 9:55.
We've had those kind of
We
budget
did it.
meetings.